A very good afternoon to all of you. Today we are going to deal with a very difficult topic, and that is rotational dynamics. In fact, whenever I read much about rotational dynamics, my mind rotates. So it's quite difficult. Rotational dynamics is not very easy. The concepts are quite difficult. But anyway, before we start, what I would like to say is that what is our goal? Like, we are going through this chapter on rotational dynamics. What is our goal? That should be very clear to you. At least, I should be clear that what is that I want from you. See, the most important thing is, say after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, when you are working as an engineer, then if you encounter a problem in rotational dynamics or something regarding rotation, then you should be able to tell others the basic concepts, to tackle the problem, to see the situation in the right manner. It is not possible, or it may not be possible for you to solve a difficult problem, but your concepts, your fundamental concept should be clear. And the fundamental concepts are clear only when you go through the problems again and again, think about it, deeply think about it, only then your fundamental concepts will be clear. So this is what I want, that after many years, you should be, the basic concepts should be there, clear in your mind about rotation. Alright? Good. So let us see what we are going to start today. Okay. So first of all, I would like to see an overview. I would like to give an overview that what we have already studied and what is that we are going to study today. That is very important. A good overview. Now, as you see, when we have studied the objects, basically there are particles and rigid bodies. These are the two different kinds of study we have done. Now, rigid bodies, as you know, it is a collection of particles. So it is also known as collection of particles. When we studied particle, then we studied about linear motion and rotatory motion. When we studied rigid bodies, there are different cases. Now, what are these different cases? First, we started with translation. And I hope you remember that when we did translation for a rigid body, what is the way? What is the way we did it? We calculated the center of mass. And center of mass is a point, is a coordinate. And for that we fixed a coordinate system, a origin. With respect to that we calculated the R. Alright? So it is the R vector. Now it does not depend upon the choice of the origin, but you have to choose a origin so that you can define that coordinate. And then when you define that coordinate system, the vector R, then basically from there you define the velocity, position vector is defined, then you define the velocity of the center of mass, you define the acceleration of the center of mass, and that way you calculate momentum and other things. Now we are studying about fixed axis rotation. Okay, fixed axis rotation. Now, here we have to see that what we are going to study and what we have already studied. In the fixed axis rotation, there are two kinds of objects. One is symmetric objects and other is asymmetric objects. Anyway, this we are not going to study much asymmetric now. But in symmetric objects, there are again two kinds of rotation can happen. One kind is the object is symmetric, like suppose a cylinder, and there is an axis which is going through the middle. That means it is passing through the center of mass and it is going along the z-axis and the cylinder can rotate. So the whole mass is distributed equally about that particular axis. So that is axis is symmetric. So symmetric object and axis is also symmetric. The second case is that the body is symmetric, no doubt, like a cylinder, but the axis is not at the center. Suppose it is at the side. So the axis is not symmetric with respect to the body. So these are the two cases. Here one has to be very, very careful. This is repeatedly I will be telling the whole lecture today, that if it is symmetric, then I can write L vector is equal to I omega vector. So L vector and omega vector are parallel to each other. But if it is not symmetric axis, I cannot write L is equal to I omega, means in this vector form. They are not parallel. At that time, I can find out the z component of L, the z component, Lz, and that is equal to I omega. So this we have to be little bit clear today, and I will deal with it. After fixed axis rotation, this also you have done, basically it is also kind of fixed axis rotation. Fixed axis means the direction of the axis is not changing. So translation plus rotation, that means the combination of the two. That also you have studied, that is the cylinder rolling down an inclined plane or whatever, those cases, translation plus rotation. The one that we have not done is axis is changing the direction. Axis is changing the direction. The example is a gyroscope. Any other example you remember? A very common example you used to play with, toque, lattu, toque. When you play it, it rotates, and then it rotates like this. Okay. So the axis is not fixed. Axis is rotating, changing. So those are the things we have to do. So that we are going to do after 1 or 2 lectures. But presently, this concept we have to be clear. Good. So this is an overview about the different things that we have read and what we are going to study. Okay. Now, this is a very, very important chart. This is the motion parameters, an overview of the motion parameters. What we have studied, and where are the places where we have to clear our concepts. Now let me tell you that, as I told, that rotational dynamics is a little bit difficult. Sometimes it is quite complicated and our head rotates. Many a times the books, they don't clear the confusion. Not the good books like Resnick Halliday, they are very good books. They are the books, or Klipner, very good books. Many of the books, there are a lot of confusions. So what I suggest, that when I tell you these things, whatever confusion you have, whatever question you have, you write it down. It may be possible that I also may not be able to clear your confusion, but I will think about it. But you write down your confusion, because when you write down your confusion, we can think about it. We can read different books and clear the confusion. So that is very necessary, that whenever you have some confusion, some problem, any problem on rotational dynamics, write about it. It may be possible that it may take some time for us to get the answer. But if we know our confusion, that this is where our confusion is, this is where our problem is, then surely we can solve that, today or tomorrow. So that, because we have to be clear with the concepts, that is very important. Now, again in the overview, I have divided into linear motion and rotatory motion. Now, in the linear motion, again there are two things, that is particle and rigid body. In the rotatory motion also, you have particle and rigid body. Now, in the case of linear motion, the first thing that we have studied is displacement. And that is usually given by delta r or s vector. That is a vector, displacement. Okay. The corresponding term there is angular displacement. Okay, angular displacement. Okay. Now, in the angular displacement, it is given by theta or delta theta. Okay, theta, delta theta. Now here there is a important thing that I am going to tell you, that you see in case of linear motion, obviously there is a coordinate system, but there is no, the body is free to move. Body is free to move. Whereas in case of rotatory motion, whether it is a particle or a rigid body, we see that it is rotating about a axis. So the concept of axis is very important. Concept of axis. The first thing is concept of axis. In rotatory motion, we see that everything is either some axis or some point, something is there. We will see that. But here things are very free. So I can compare this as, this is something like a bachelor, that is something like a married life, because you are restricted to a family and you are not free. Wherever you go, you have to come back to your family. But here it is quite free. Now, the one important parameter is theta and delta theta. We have to see, is theta a vector or delta theta is a vector? That we have to see. Now theta, whenever there is a theta, the theta is basically with respect to an axis. Something is rotating, so it is with respect to axis. Second is velocity. We write v is equal to dr by dt. Angular velocity is the rotatory motion. Omega. Omega is a vector or not? That is a question. Omega, that is equal to d theta by dt. So when we write d theta by dt, that is a vector. We will see how omega is a vector. Omega is also about an axis. Omega is also about an axis. So all these things are about an axis. Now, sometimes you will see this term omega z. People write in terms of omega z, alpha z. When do the people write like this? Omega z, or what does it mean? See, if a particle is rotating about a point, then the particle may be in a particular plane. It can change the plane like this, it can rotate like this, it can rotate like this. But when it is rotating in a plane, in a horizontal plane, suppose say, and I want that, so what I do, I fix an axis. If I fix an axis, then it is basically horizontal, and I define the angle, the direction of omega. That is a right hand rule. That means if the fingers are curling in the direction of omega, this thumb is in the direction of z axis. So when I say omega z, that means I fix the plane actually, because it is rotating about that particular axis. So many a times you will find that the kinematic equations are there for the linear motion as well as for the rotatory motion. In the rotatory motion, mostly the kinematic equations are written in scalar, and it is because one thing that you will see there, omega z, alpha z, and theta basically is a vector, delta theta is a vector, theta is not in the 3 dimensions. So I think that is why we don't write it in the vector form. Usually we write in the scalar form, and we use omega z, alpha z there. So to define, omega z is a direction, that is perfectly fine. But it defines the axis, it defines the plane. Okay. Acceleration, A is equal to dv by dt, very well known. Here it is angular acceleration, alpha. Alpha is equal to d omega by dt. Again it is about an axis. Okay. Alpha is, in many places you will see for a particle they write alpha z. That means about the z axis. So the plane is fixed. It is about rotating about that axis, and it is not doing like this. So it is about the axis, so horizontal plane. Mass m. This is the corresponding term is rotational inertia. That is I mi ri square, sigma mi ri square. The rotational inertia is also about an axis. So now we are getting the second term. First of all, we got this theta, omega and alpha, which are all about the axis. Then we are getting another one quantity, which is your I. Basically, I is how the mass is distributed, square the distance about that axis. So, sigma mi ri square, that is also about an axis. So, everywhere axis. Now you see the things are changing. Force F is equal to ma. So, force is force. No reference to any point. Yes, obviously the coordinate system origin is there, but it is a force. The corresponding term in the rotatory motion is torque. Now as you see, the moment the torque and angular momentum is coming, there is some kind of problem. Before that, you have to see one more thing, that basically what is our purpose? As I told you, our purpose is to analyze the rotational motion, how we can analyze the rotational motion. Now, when something is rotating, then either its omega is given to us or its alpha is given to us, isn't it? So, we want to see that how basically this torque and our angular momentum, these are not given, we have to calculate actually. The force is given. From the force I can calculate the torque, and from there I have to relate that torque and the angular momentum with these quantities, that is omega and alpha, okay, and also I. So that is why the next set of things are coming, next set of parameters. These are till here, this is 1, this is given to us, omega, this is rotating with some omega, this fan is rotating with some omega, okay. So now these are the things which are given, we have to relate with them, okay. Now when the torque is coming, torque about of a particle is always defined about a point, okay, and that is known as R. See, this is a very nice way of writing, tau O, people write this, tau O, you always write O, that means you never forget that it is with respect to a point. The torque is with respect to a point, tau O is equal to RO cross F. So RO is measured from that point, RO cross F. So it is RF sine theta, you know very well, RF sine theta. And in the 2 dimensions, as you have seen, that it is what is the torque actually in 2 dimensions basically. We will see this difference. This is a very important one. The torque differs from the 2 dimensions to the 3 dimensions. You know very well the perpendicular distance between the line of the force and the point of rotation. So R0 cross F, and perpendicular to both R and F, that is your torque. That is about a point, not about an axis. That is a point for a O. Now, what happens that when there is a solid body and when I calculate the torque, so I calculate about a fixed point for all the particles, okay. Now that becomes, when we calculate that gives you I alpha. I have written I alpha z for a particular axis I have defined. So that is z is there. That means the axis is defined actually. So when we write I alpha z, basically I is with respect to axis, alpha is with respect to axis, and I am calculating the torque for all the points about a point, for all the masses, small masses about a particular point. Now that point lies on the axis. If I change the point, it will be same. If I add up all the forces, all the particles about a point, it will come out to be the same. That is I alpha. So I alpha is the torque of the whole body. So for a particle, it is R cross F, R0 cross F. For a body, when it is a solid body, rigid body, symmetric body, so then we are getting I alpha z. The calculation wise, we get I alpha z. So that's why I have written point as well as axis. So now it is becoming axis. At any point, actually, I can calculate about that axis. Angular momentum. But still, here I must say, there is a confusion. I also, a lot of times when I think, I feel a confusion that somehow things are not clear. So that should be very clear to you. As I told you, my head also rotates. Angular momentum. Angular momentum, again, as you see, LO for a particle. LO is equal to RO cross P. So it is about a particle. It is also a point. About a point. So angular momentum is calculated about a point. As you see, the linear momentum is not about a point. It is free. But angular momentum is calculated about a point. Now, when there is a rigid body and there is an axis and I calculate angular momentum. So what I do, I calculate the angular momentum of all the particles about a fixed point in the axis. Mind it, about a fixed point in the axis. This is very confusing part. About a fixed point in the axis. It is in the axis obviously, but about a fixed point in the axis of all the particles. And then I get the term I omega. So when I say I omega, it is for a body, mainly for a body actually, a solid body, a rigid body. So again it is both a point as well as axis. Initially a point, from the starting point, initially a point, but when I calculate for all the particles about that axis, at any point of the axis it will give me the same answer, I omega. So this has to be very clear to you. This is, lot of confusion is there. So that is your L, and we will do the whole derivation is, today we will do it. Then kinetic energy half mv square, rotational kinetic energy is half I omega square. L is equal to I omega. I have written not always true. As I have already told you, it is not always true. If the asymmetric is there either in the axis or in the body, then I cannot write L vector is equal to I omega vector. It is only for symmetric body with symmetric axis. So that is there. Okay, that is axis. Okay. Now I have written down few equations which are basically along with this one, L is equal to I omega. They are very, very important. And using these equations, if you understand them properly, you can solve any problem. F is equal to ma, the corresponding is torque external, sigma torque external is equal to I alpha. Sigma F external is equal to dp by dt, sigma torque external is equal to dl by dt. This is one of the most important equation, most important. And why most important? Again and again I have said in this lecture that why it is the most important. Because L is connected with tau on one side and L is also connected with omega on the other side. Alright? For a rigid body, L is equal to symmetric rigid body, L is equal to I omega. Alright? And dl by dt is also torque external. Now, if external torque is 0, that means different kinds of collision problem, all different type of collision problem where there is no torque, only internal torque is there, the angular momentum is conserved. And large number of problems we can solve it. Okay, so that is very important. At the same time, if the torque is there, then if I calculate the torque and angular momentum and use this equation, I solve another set of problems. So that is what we will see today, that how this particular equation is so vital, so important for us. Third is the energy equation. Sometimes you have to write all of them actually. Energy equation here, energy, I have not written separately. So energy equation is the work energy theorem, and also for conservative forces and torques, respective torques, actually your total mechanical energy, that is your kinetic energy, change in kinetic energy plus change in potential energy is constant. So, or change in kinetic energy is equal to change in potential energy. So that is there. So these three equations and these three equations, these are the most important equations along with L is equal to I omega. Here just I made a figure. So this is I actually not I, this is moment of inertia, and L, tau, omega, alpha. So you can see how you can relate them. L is equal to I omega, tau is equal to I alpha, okay, and dl by dt is equal to tau, d omega by dt is equal to alpha. So just a kind of picture I have drawn. So next we will see about that how this omega is a vector, how omega is a vector and delta theta is a vector. Okay, now in this slide what we are going to see that large angle rotation, large angle, if theta is large, then that is not a vector. Why it is not a vector? Because already I have defined the angular displacement, the direction, and the direction I have defined by right hand rule, that if angular displacement is in this direction, in the direction of my fingers, curling fingers, then this thumb points in the direction of the direction. So that is the direction defined. But still, after defining the direction also, the large angle rotation, that means if theta is large, then that is not a vector, because it has to follow the laws of vector addition. So one of the laws of vector addition is that it should commute each other. Commute means, suppose say you have two vectors S1 and S2, then S1 plus S2 should be equal to S2 plus S1. Okay, so it should commute. But what we find that here if the theta is large, it does not commute. So let us see what it says, that suppose this is your x, y and z axis. A book is there. You are rotating first about x axis 90 degree. Then you are rotating about z axis 90 degree. You get this picture. Then what you do? You are rotating first the reverse one, first about z 90 degree and then about x 90 degree, the opposite first one, you get this picture. So these two pictures are not same, and that is why phi 1 plus phi 2 is not equal to phi 2 plus phi 1. We can check it. Suppose this is my book. You know, this is a physics by Resnick Halliday Crane. This is a wonderful book. Wonderful. So, in fact, that figure, I have taken from this book. So, wonderful book. Okay, so let us see. First of all, as it says that rotate, suppose this is the book and this is your x direction, this is your y direction and this is your z direction, x, y and z. Now it says first you rotate about x. So rotate about x. So this is your x. So rotate about x in the clockwise direction. Suppose say clockwise direction about x. So about x I have rotated. Okay, 90 degree. Then it says that rotate about z clockwise. So rotate about z clockwise. So this is my z. I am rotating about this z clockwise. Okay. Now this is the picture that you see now. Okay. Now so you are seeing this side, the width and this side. Okay, these things are there. Now again I bring back the whole book like this and I rotate about z axis. I rotate about z axis. This is your z axis, so I rotate clockwise like this, z axis, and then I rotate about x axis 90 degree. X axis 90 degree. So this is your x axis. So this is I rotate about x axis. Now you see, you are not seeing these papers now. This is the long side. So you are getting different one. So this is phi 1 plus phi 2 is not equal to phi 2 plus phi 1. So phi is not a vector. But what it says that if you take small rotation, then it becomes a vector. Let us see that small rotations. So this is the book I have taken again. First of all, you rotate about x axis. So this is about your x axis. So I rotate little bit, clockwise, this axis, and then about z axis. So this is my z axis. So I rotate about the z axis. Okay. So this is the one I get it. That means these pages are facing that side. Okay. Then I do the reverse. That means I rotate first about the z axis. Rotate first about the z axis. That means this is the z axis, so I rotate like this, z axis little bit, z axis, and then rotate about x axis. Rotate about x axis. That means x axis this, so this way. So as you see, it was same like before. This is the one. So it should be the same. You can just check. So initially it was, let us do it once again, that will be better. So initially it is x axis. So rotate about x axis little bit. Rotate about x axis, clockwise direction. And then about z axis. So then about z axis. This one little bit. This is the book. First about the x axis, that is your clockwise rotation, about x axis, and then about z axis. Okay. So this physics side is facing on that side. Okay. Now you come to this one, that is first you rotate about z axis. First you rotate about z axis, and then you rotate about x axis. Then you rotate about x axis. So you are getting same this side. So delta phi 1 plus delta phi 2 is equal to delta phi 2 plus delta phi 1. So if it is small angle, okay. So omega is defined instantaneous angular velocity d phi by dt. Okay, that is delta phi by delta t, limit delta t tends to 0. So it is a vector. Omega is a vector. That is how we define omega as a vector. And the direction is given by omega is right hand rule. This is the finger, it is rotating, so the direction is this way. Then when we give this direction to omega, because the direction of omega doesn't come naturally like other vectors, so we have to give this direction. When we give this direction, it is consistent with the laws of physics, because omega v is equal to omega cross r. V is equal to omega cross r. You can see something rotating like this, v, and omega is this, so r is this, so omega cross r is v. Okay, so v is equal to omega cross r. So it is consistent now with the direction of v and omega. Good. Now let us see about the angular momentum. As I told you that angular momentum is a very, very important quantity, and we want to calculate that angular momentum. Now here what I suggest, that go slowly, don't be fast. If you don't understand something, pause and see it again. It is, slowly we have to understand things in a very relaxed manner. Good. So symmetric body is rotating about axis symmetric to the body and axis not symmetric to the body. As I told you, both the cases we will see. And why again angular momentum? Because again and again I want to stress that angular momentum is a very, very important quantity. The first equation, sigma tau external is equal to dl by dt. So on one side, suppose there is a torque which is acting on a body. So you calculate the angular momentum about a particular point. Again you calculate torque about the same point and equate. So you will get a lot of things. If the torque external is 0, then angular momentum is conserved. That is the second thing, important thing. Third important point is that angular momentum, basically you will see that we define angular momentum of a linearly moving body and also for a rotating body. So whenever there is some kind of collisions where 2-3 bodies are, or at least 2 bodies are concerned, collisions, there it is very naturally angular momentum is conserved, because internal forces or internal torques, they don't contribute. So basically they cancel each other, and so the next external torque is 0, and the angular momentum is conserved. So for many different kinds of problems like the collision problems, you have to calculate the angular momentum. So the knowledge of angular momentum is very important. Now let us calculate solid cylinder. Let us take the example of solid cylinder. Now, and I am taking a symmetric axis. So solid cylinder and symmetric axis. So we are going into the symmetric axis. I have to find out the angular momentum L. How to find out? There are one or two different methods. There may be many methods. One method is a very simplistic approach, very easy approach. What it does, that this particular body, it makes slices. Okay, slices, that means discs, very thin discs. That means it breaks the whole 3D problem into 2D problem. And the 2D problem, the things are simpler. The calculating the torque and calculating the angular momentum is simpler. So there are discs. Now, in these discs, there are particles. So obviously, you know that L1 basically is mvr. So V is equal to r omega if you write. So it is m r square omega, or omega is same for all the particles. So it is omega sigma mi ri square. So there are different particles about this axis. This is the middle axis. So you calculate sigma mi ri square. So let us name it I1. So I1 omega. That is the first disk. Like that you take second disk, third disk, fourth disk and 11th disk. I write I2, I3, In omega. Let us write that. So L is sigma of Li. Now I1 plus I2 plus I3 plus omega. Omega is same for all of them. So that we can write L is equal to I omega. Okay. So that is the way one can calculate, and this proof is given in many books, but it is a very simplistic proof. It is not a rigorous proof. Why it is not a rigorous proof? See, angular momentum, when we are talking about a rigid body, we always say that angular momentum is about a point. But here what the proof is doing, or the method is, that you are calculating angular momentum for each disc. When you are calculating angular momentum for each disc, you are basically calculating about the point at the center. Then what you do, you are changing that to I1 omega. Obviously I1 is depending on the axis, and omega is also on the axis. So there is no point. So you express in terms of I omega, I omega, I omega. So basically, it doesn't matter which point you have calculated. Then you calculate or add up all I omega. Well, it is a okay method, but suppose say if there is some kind of particles, some kind of asymmetry where it is not falling in xy plane, then there will be problem, because then it means a very simplistic approach it is. Okay. So what we want to do is, now that we want to calculate about a single point. Can we calculate the angular momentum about a single point? And in the next slide we will see that we are taking a single point, and about that single point we will calculate the angular momentum. But that single point will lie on the axis, at any point on the axis, and we will see that it is independent of the z coordinate. That means wherever you put that point, you will get the same answer. Okay, so that is a rigorous proof, and that will give us a full understanding that what actually angular momentum is. Angular momentum is about a point, about a fixed point. So all the particles, we are calculating the angular momentum about that point and add up, and then we will see what is the answer. So we will go into the next slide now. Okay, now let us see, this is calculating for a particle, the angular momentum of a particle. But what we do here is that there is a cylinder, alright, cylinder, and I take one point at the extreme circumference, one point, and I try to calculate the angular momentum. Okay, so this is basically the whole cylinder, alright. from the whole cylinder, and this is the point of origin. This is the whole cylinder and this is the point of origin. Now about this point of origin, I will calculate the angular momentum. Let us calculate. So as you see, this vector is a r vector, position vector r. So this is distance and vector also r. This particle is rotating because that particle is one of the particle in the cylinder. So basically that is rotating in a circle. And at this point, the tangential velocity as well as momentum is given by P into V. This is your z-axis. Since it is rotating, cylinder is rotating, so omega is along the z-axis. This is your z-axis. Alright? This is your z-axis. So omega is pointing along the z-axis. Now this is your r and this is your v. So r, so something is there like a circle, and there is r over here, and there is a v. So r cross v will be something like this. Alright? R cross v or r cross mv. So it is something like this. As you see, this is the vector that is shown, and small l because of a particle, one particle, small l. When we add up, it is capital L. So this is the L of the particle. Now this red line, as you see, this is the radius. This is the radius r prime. Now what I do here is that this vector I extend this and I resolve it into two parts. One is basically the vertical direction, that is along omega. I call it Lz. The other one is basically perpendicular to the vertical axis, so that is your L perpendicular. Okay, fine. Now I am sorry that I am not able to, I could not make it the figure very nicely, but in one figure I have tried to show everything. Now here it is theta, this angle is theta. If you see this triangle, this is also basically, what is this angle? Because this angle is 90 degree. This is 90 degree. So this is pi by 2 minus theta. Okay, this is pi by 2 minus theta, this is theta, this is r. This is r prime is in the other plane, it is different. So this is the triangle I am looking at for. This is your, this particular triangle. Alright. Now when you take this vector L, this vector I have resolved into Lz and L perpendicular. Now let us see what is the Lz. Lz is L cos of this angle, and this angle is pi by 2 minus theta. L cos pi by 2 minus theta. Okay. Fine. Good. Slowly you go through it. No hurry. L, this is your L vector. L cos pi by 2 minus theta is your Lz. Then that is equal to L sin theta. Now what is L? What is this L? L is equal to R cross MV. Alright. So R and MV, they are perpendicular to each other. So this is MVR sine of theta. Fine. Now here as we see, this V, the velocity is r omega. R means radius. R prime omega. So mv is given by m r prime omega r sin theta. R sin theta. Now this I have left one step here. This r sin theta. What is r sin theta? This is your r. Cos theta is the this one. Sin theta is basically the radius. So r prime is equal to r sin theta. R prime is equal to r sin theta. I must write here. R prime is equal to r sin theta. That is not written over here. So r sin theta is equal to r prime. So it is m r prime square, that is your I omega. So Lz is equal to I omega. And what is your L perpendicular? That is L cos theta. So what we find that here L is not parallel to omega, because this is the direction of L and this is the direction of omega. L has a component in the direction of omega. In the direction Z, the component is I omega. But L is not parallel to omega. So for a single particle, this is the point of today's lecture, that L in the linear motion, what we have seen, that P momentum is always parallel to V. But here there are cases like this case where we see one single particle rotating. At that time, if I calculate L about a point O, which is lying on the axis, what I find that L is not parallel to omega. But it has a component in the direction of omega that is equal to I omega. Okay. Now what we do, the next step is that we take two particles. Okay, two particles. One particle here exactly the same, other one is opposite, diametrically opposite. Now, when we take this particle, this case, then again we calculate, because you see the velocity over here is in this direction, in this it is in the opposite direction. Now, again we calculate the both your L1 and L2. Now we have mentioned this as M1 and this as M2. So the angular momentum because of M1 is your L1 vector, and angular momentum because of M2 is your L2 vector. If you resolve them, so both are having a component in the Z direction. Alright, that is also, it will be I omega. I omega means I1 omega, I2 omega, alright. So I1 is M1 R1 R prime square, I2 is M2 R prime square. So both will have a component in the Z direction. The L perpendicular, this is your L1 perpendicular because of M1, this is L2 perpendicular because of M2. They are directly opposite to each other and equal. They are equal and opposite. So they cancel each other. So what is my final, L? Final L is basically L1 plus L2. Sorry, this should be, this is a vector actually. Vector. So, and this is also the final L is a vector. So the resultant L, capital L, which is L1 plus L2, that is equal to I1 omega plus I2 omega, I1 because of M1, I2 because of M2. So I1 plus I2 will give you I. So you get L is equal to I omega. So here L is equal to I omega, and they are parallel to each other. They are parallel to each other. So, is this clear to you? This is very important. Now, this is the case of a cylinder. When we take a cylinder, for every particle, this is actually a cylinder. This is actually a cylinder. So, for every particle on one side from the axis, there is another particle diametrically opposite on the other side. So all the perpendicular components, they cancel each other. Only the vertical component add up, and that adds up to give you I omega. So basically now we see that here the final angular momentum about this axis is equal to I omega. Now as you see that in this calculation, when you see in this calculation, whatever is the, this Z coordinate, because along this line, wherever I choose, it will be the same. It does not depend on the Z coordinate. So, one can calculate L about any point on the axis. And that is how the angular momentum which we have calculated about a point now basically can be calculated at any point on the axis. So basically we say that it is the angular momentum about that axis. But one has to be remembered that it is calculated, all the particles we are calculating about a particular point, and that point can change in the axis. So it is about a particular point. This should be very, very clear to you. But if it is not, if there are not two particles, only one particle is there, that is a case of asymmetric. That means if for every particle there is a diametrically opposite particle is not there, then the other component, that is your L perpendicular component, will not cancel each other, and the L is not parallel to omega. So only the vertical component, that is Lz, will be equal to I omega. This is very, very important because most of the books, they don't give this kind of explanation and figure. So I hope this is very clear to you, because this is a very, very confusing place, that L, whether it is defined with respect to a point or it is with respect to an axis. It is actually defined with respect to a point, but then it comes, that all the points on the axis will give you the same result. So basically it is along the axis also. But it is calculated about a point. So L is calculated about a point. Now there are lot of conclusions we have written here. Another thing that you will see interesting, that as I forgot to tell you, that this particle as it was rotating, this is connected by, since it is a solid cylinder, it is connected by a rod. So I have taken it as a rod actually presently. So, and that is how it is there, it is connected throughout a solid object. So when it is rotating, there is basically some kind of tension, otherwise a particle cannot rotate in a circle. And that tension provides the necessary centripetal force, or in your terms you can say that there is a centripetal force towards the center, the net resultant force. Now, if one calculate the torque about this point, that one can calculate. That is your F, and this is your R. So R cross F, the torque will be in this direction. Alright? R cross F will be in this direction. So it will be outward, R cross F in this direction. Alright. Now, for a single particle, there will be a torque. Okay. But if you calculate for all the particles, you will see that the torque direction is changing and it cancels, the whole term gets cancelled. So there is no torque because the whole cylinder is moving with a uniform angular velocity. So there is no torque. So, but for a single particle, if you calculate, you will get a torque. Now, for the single particle also, if you calculate the change, because there is a L z component is there and L perpendicular component is there. If you find out, or basically the L is there, which is not parallel to omega, if you find out the change in L in delta theta or in delta t time, and then you find out dl by dt, that will be equal to the torque that you get. So both the torque and the angular momentum, they are calculated about the same point. So if you calculate the torque and if you calculate the angular momentum and dl by dt, whatever the change in dt time, you will get the both are same. So they have to be calculated about the same point. So this proof gives a very fundamental idea that what actually is angular momentum and what actually is the torque in solid bodies, in rigid bodies. Alright? Because for a particle we know, but in a rigid body, we are here also we are calculating about a point, and from that point we are getting as I omega. So now when we get I omega actually, then it's I is with respect to axis, omega is with respect to axis. So that is what you can call L as with respect to axis. Good. Now we will go to conclusions. Already I have told you something about this figure. What are the conclusions? Symmetric objects plus symmetric axis, L is I omega, L is parallel to omega. Symmetric objects plus asymmetric axis, Lz is equal to I omega. In 3D objects, L is calculated from a fixed point in the axis and added up for all point mass. Okay? L will remain same for all the points in the axis. All these points I told you. Tau can be calculated about the same point, then sigma tau is equal to dl by dt. In this example, tau will be there for a single particle, but for all particles it is equal to 0 because of central force. Now the last point I forgot to tell you, difference in 2D and 3D, r cross f is equal to tau or r cross p is equal to L. See, as I told you, we get into a lot of confusions when you study this rotational dynamics. One confusion that we get, that in the schools or from the schools what we have studied, that what is torque? Torque basically is the product of the magnitude of the force. Suppose there is some system, suppose there is something like this, and I am applying a force over here, alright? So it is moving, or it is going down, or it is going up, whatever it is. Now, from our school days, what we have learned, that torque is the magnitude of this force multiplied by the line of action of this force, the perpendicular distance from the line of action of the force and the axis of rotation. So this distance multiplied by this. So r cross f, that is what is r cross f. Okay. Sometimes as you see that something is like this and force is like this, so you calculate again this r f sine theta, so that gives you the perpendicular distance. That is how you calculate the torque. But that is so basically what we see, that it is a perpendicular distance between that what matters. So it is a perpendicular distance, this perpendicular distance between the line of force or between the line of momentum vector and the point from where we are taking the origin. So if you draw a parallel line, it is a perpendicular distance, r sine theta. So r sine theta is this distance actually, this distance. Okay. Now that is in 3 dimensions, in 2 dimensions. Because here what you see, as you see, that suppose say this is my vector r, this is the point, and this is my x-axis. I am measuring the angle theta, and this is the force. Suppose the force is this way or the momentum vector is this way. So all they are lying in a plane. All they are lying in a plane. Like this one, this one. This is your x-axis. This is your x-axis. This is the r, and here is your momentum vector. All right. So vector r cross mv. So you are taking this particular r sine theta is your this distance. Okay. Now this is perfectly fine. Now what you do, suppose say if I take the mv as perpendicular to this. If you take perpendicular to this, that means it is going inside the page like this, going inside the page, and this is your r vector. Now as you see, r cross f will be rf sine theta, isn't it? But what is the theta now? Theta between them is 90 degree. So it is rf. So now I am not getting any component, but I am getting only the magnitude of this distance, r. Do you follow it? This is your r, now f is this. This is your f. So r cross f is your 90 degree, rf, because sine 90 is 1. So you are getting only r. Now I am not getting the perpendicular distance. So I am not getting this. So this is the 1. Okay. So in the case of 3D, that is the case of 3D actually. In the case of 3D, as you have seen over here, that when I am taking r cross f or r cross mv, So basically it is coming your MVR. So this is the distance that I am getting. I am not getting that perpendicular distance between the line of action of the force or momentum vector and the axis, point of the axis. So in 3 dimensions, the meaning of this torque and the angular momentum changes a bit. It is now here this distance, the distance between the body and the point. So it is not perpendicular distance, that r sine theta thing, the perpendicular distance thing doesn't work over here. So there is a little bit of difference between 2D and the 3D. If you are not clear about it, we can discuss further. Okay. Now let us come to some examples, because examples will clear the concepts whatever we have learned. Very nice example. Why I have included very simple example, so that we understand the concepts. That is very important. We understand the concepts. You have seen this particular problem many a times. When I was like you, I also have done this some 34 years back. There is a wheel or something like this, a circular object, alright? Maybe a sphere, sometimes it is a sphere, it can be a cylinder, anything. So sphere, suppose it is sphere. And this is the M, and this is mass which is sliding over this particular sphere, having velocity v1. It reaches the point over here with a velocity v2. So the question is, what is the velocity v2? That is the question. Very simple. Now, to us the important thing is not the answer or not the solution of the problem. What is that we learn from this problem? Because as I told you, your approach is more important. What is the approach that you take? If your approach is correct, then you can solve all problems, or at least you can solve partly even a difficult problem. So we have to know the right approach. What is that we conclude? The right thing from here. The right thing from here that we conclude is, the first thing that I can see, that here both linear motion and circular motion is there. First of all, it is 2 objects. So let us say this is 2 objects. 2 objects having collision. Now whenever you have 2 objects and there is some kind of collision, that means one body is just passing over the other, some kind of internal torque is taking place. Moment you see some kind of 2 objects together, it should immediately remind you of conservation of angular momentum. Now the second thing that I see over here, that both translation plus rotation is there. Both translation and rotation, only this angular momentum vector or angular momentum can deal with it. Because angular momentum we can calculate for a particle moving in a translation motion. Also it is for a rotatory motion. Just think that we have to calculate about a point. So what do? You calculate about this point, the vector r cross f, you take it as a point mass. So vector r cross f, so that is your m v1r, r is the radius, m v1r is equal to, that is the about this point you are taking. Now suppose it is a cylinder or sphere, whatever it is. So angular momentum of that. So that is your I omega is equal to m v1r, that is your initial angular momentum about this point O is equal to I omega, that is the angular momentum about this axis plus m v2r, again r cross f, angular momentum of this particle with velocity v2 about this point. So initial is equal to final, and then we know that is there is no slip condition, so V2 is equal to R omega. So from there you can write V2 in terms of omega, and then you can calculate. So it is a very simple problem of two lines, but it illustrates lot of good principles that in what way you can approach a problem. Moment you see two bodies together, immediately you should think that angular momentum conservation may be there. Okay. Now let us see another problem similar type. There is a bar, some rod or bar which is lying over somewhere in a frictionless place, and there is a particle of mass m. It moves with a velocity v0 and it hits the rod at this point, and because of that the rod moves in the forward direction and also rotates. So this is the v and this is the omega, and at that time the small mass recoils back with a velocity vf. So what are the principles, what are the formulas that you have to you will apply? First of all, again two body. Okay, so two body means conservation of angular momentum. So about this center of mass, you can calculate the angular momentum. So for the mass m, the first equation will be conservation of angular momentum. Though that is the third equation we write, but since we are doing the angular momentum, the first thing is conservation of angular momentum. So angular momentum of this particle going this way, and also when it is reflected back. So initial is equal to final is angular momentum is what? Angular momentum of this, that is your I about this point, I omega plus angular momentum of that. That is the first equation. Second equation, you will see that you will get three variables. So V0, Vf and omega. So three variables are there. So you need three equations. What will be the second and third equations? Second equations will be your momentum conservation. Again, momentum conservation, mv0 and then the negative mvf, small m, and the center of mass is going with the velocity v. So the second equation is your momentum conservation. Third equation is your energy conservation. So there the kinetic energy of this one, kinetic energy of this one, this one is equal to this one plus half I omega square plus half mv square, because it is having a translation as well as a rotation. So it's a little bit of difficult problem, but what I'm trying to tell you is your approach, the right approach. So this is how you can solve it. Okay, so the first two problems is basically when you have two bodies colliding with each other. So energy conservation, momentum conservation, angular momentum conservation, these are the things which are there. Then you have a third problem. This problem, your sir had done in the class also. Here it is a bar pendulum. It is a bar pendulum. Bar pendulum. It is a bar pendulum. Now, in the bar pendulum, you have to find out the time period. Now, in these kinds of problem, what are, how you should approach? Moment you see that there is one body and some force is acting there, then you must know that there is a torque also acting. Okay, so calculate the torque, and torque is equal to, one way you calculate the torque about this point, then I alpha, that is also one way, that way you can do it. But another way is, general method is, torque, you calculate angular momentum about the same point, dl by dt of that. So I omega, dl by dt of I omega is I alpha, you will get the same thing. So, or you write torque is equal to I alpha, and then you can solve it basically. So, when there is one particular body and there is a force, there is a torque which is acting, it is good that you calculate torque about a point, L about a point, and equate them. Good. Now let us come to the last portion, that how to calculate. So I hope you are clear with these problems and you can do it by yourself. If you find any difficulty, these problems are solved in my notes, so you can refer back to my notes. But first of all, try to do it yourself. Okay, this part is very, very important. The last part, and that is how to calculate tau and L from a point outside the body. Okay, many problems, the way it is solved, suppose say the force is acting on the body or there is a torque. So you can calculate torque and L about a point outside the body which is fixed to the earth, and from there you calculate torque, you calculate L, dl by dt is equal to torque. So that way you can solve many problems. Okay, so in this problem there is a disc, alright, there is a disc and there is a rope or string wound around its circumference, and that is pulled by a force F. So what happens, that it accelerates in the forward direction, and also it has an angular acceleration given by alpha. Okay, so this is what it happens actually. Now it can be solved very quickly by non-inertial frame. Let me discuss that. We can take an axis passing through this point, center of mass. Now that whole axis will be accelerating because it is having a linear acceleration. Now for an accelerating, it will be a non-inertial frame. But for a axis which is passing through the center of mass, the pseudo force, all the moment of the pseudo force, that means pseudo torque, will be 0. So that is proved in many books, and that is a standard theorem. So about that point you can take the torque. So tau O, that is about the point center of mass, is equal to Bf is equal to I0 alpha, and from there one can find out alpha directly. And acceleration of center of mass is A is equal to F by M. Within 2 lines one can get it. Okay. Now the solution 2, that is using inertial frame of reference. Now as you see here, that what we do here is that you calculate, this is the body, you calculate the torque and the angular momentum outside the body. Outside the body means from the origin A, the point A over here. Okay, and then you write torque A, that is tau, is equal to dl by dt about that point, and you will get the answer. And many problems, basically it is a general problem, general solution you can solve by this method, that you calculate torque, you calculate angular momentum outside the body at a fixed point, and then dl by dt is equal to torque. So torque A, let us see how to calculate this. Torque A, that is at a point outside the body, is equal to torque about the center of mass of this body. Torque about the center of mass of this body, that is about TO, plus, then what you have to do, you have to assume that the whole body is concentrated at the center of mass. Okay, and then whatever the force or the velocity is there, apply over there. So apply the force at the, you assume the whole body to be at the center, and apply a force over F and the velocity V. So what is the torque then at this point? Vector R cross F, vector R cross F. So Bf minus Bf, that is equal to 0. So torque about the point A is 0. Now let us calculate the angular momentum about the point A, again the same way. So angular momentum about point A is equal to angular momentum of this body about the point center of mass, that is LO, plus, again you concentrate, you reduce the whole body to a point mass over here and calculate the angular momentum of that mass. So it is R cross mv. So L0 is equal to I0 omega minus BMV, that you know very well, BMV. So these are the two theorems or formulas which are there in your book, proved. So, but the application of the formula is like this, that whenever you have to calculate outside a point, you calculate the angular momentum or torque about the center of mass, plus you reduce the whole body to a point mass at the center of mass and calculate either your torque or angular momentum. Then after calculation, you just write torque is equal to dl by dt, which is actually I0 omega is I0 alpha minus BMA, which is equal to 0 because torque is equal to 0. From there you get the value of alpha. So you get it. Though this method is a little lengthy, but it is not the answer which we are interested in. It is to learn how to calculate torque and angular momentum outside a body which is fixed onto the earth, and from there, using the formula torque is equal to dl by dt, how you can calculate the other whatever quantities that are being asked. Okay. So let me quickly recapitulate what we have learned in our lecture today. So anyway, first of an overview we have seen, overview of the major formulas, and from there what we find that main important about this lecture is that how the rotational quantities, they are fixed onto the axis, about an axis, or rotational moment of inertia, and from there we go on to calculate torque and angular momentum. Now torque and angular momentum is about a point. Then what we do for a rigid body, from a point we go to the axis, that is about an axis, symmetric axis, which is passing through the center of mass usually. So from that, on that axis when we are calculating, so we take a particular point, alright, and we calculate the torque and the angular momentum of the whole body about that particular point. So wherever we choose that point along that axis, we get the same answer, and that is what we have seen in the diagram here, that is how you can calculate the angular momentum or torque. So once that is calculated, so then we find that basically we calculated from the point, but basically now we get torque is equal to I alpha, which is I is with respect to axis, alpha is with respect to the axis, L is equal to I omega, I is with respect to the axis, omega is with respect to the axis. So this is the most important thing that we have learned, and how to calculate L. Then we have seen that omega is a vector, that is the important one, and this is the mostly important thing that we have learned about the angular momentum, and also a few important examples, and lastly how to calculate the torque and angular momentum outside at a fixed point, and then use tau is equal to dl by dt to solve the problems. So thank you very much. Please go through it slowly. Thank you.